welcome to Provisionally Approved, the show where the producers, quote, go nuts as long as it doesn't get me in jail, unquote. I'm Mike Gorrie, and hashtag Gorrie Fact. When a Gorrie jumps into a chlorinated pool, the Gorrie doesn't get wet. It dissolves.
Okay, interesting fact. I'm Justin Dalaya.
And I'm Taylah Jayde.
Justin and Taylah.
Hold on, before we continue, I think we're going to have a bit of lollies. I've been told there's some lollies in... I got told there were lollies in here. Jack, what the hell, man?
That's disappointing. All right.
Really, Jack?
Catering on this show sucks, man.
Okay, let's talk about how you would do catering better.
How would I do catering better? Pizza on set.
Pizza on set. Okay, I don't really have to say I disagree with having pizza on set myself. I find the times when I've catered with either pizza or borax or sort of anything that's sort of high in carbs, we've had people literally just sort of fall asleep on set.
Now, that's interesting. So basically, if you want to do a sleeping scene, all you got to do is feed them as much junk, pizza, and crap as possible. Then they go lullaby and perfect. You got a good sleeping scene.
I have to agree with that actually, because I recently did catering myself, and I had like a lot of carbs and a lot of like bread twists from Baker's Delight, all that stuff, and yeah, it didn't work really well. Like my crew was kind of feeling like bloated and sluggish, and I was like, never again.
It sort of takes the energy out a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Do you find when you get catered for people on set, you always got to ask, are you vegetarian, gluten intolerant, always double checking yourself?
Always check that beforehand. Yeah, definitely.
You don't want anything going wrong just before or on set.
Definitely not, no. It's probably not the sort of thing you want to necessarily find out on the day either, because if you get someone who has sort of like an intersection of like, okay, they're vegan but also gluten intolerant, you kind of
screwed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you kind of need to have plans in advance for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For the sake of the audience, what are the projects that you guys are working on?
With RMITV, I do RMITV Backdrop. So I just interview all different producers, camera operators, all within the RMITV organisation, which is always fun. You always get to meet new people, get to learn other people's experience and what they're getting out of the experience of RMITV.
So it's sort of an interview kind of...
Yeah, it's an interview style show. So basically we interview just for 2 minutes, just quickly a producer, introduce themselves, talk about their role. It's so short, you don't even have a host.
Yeah. So what's your
I'm the producer of it. So basically, I organise people to come in, organise a quick little script to organise, unless I can delegate that role, of course.
Yeah.
Just get everyone in the crew, everyone basically go through it and just make sure everything runs smoothly on set. So it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy gig anyway.
Yeah, cool. And what about you, Tay?
Well, I'm currently a student at RMIT, and I'm studying a diploma in screen and media.
Yep.
I've recently just finished my role as production assistant for Misguided TV show, which was through RMITV.
Awesome.
And now I'm devoting my time to this show. So yeah.
Nice.
Good.
So in terms of like the 5-year or 10-year plan, like what are the roles that you guys want to end up in?
I guess for me, directing. I want to be directing and being involved, starring if possible. And if I can, of course, I want to be the guy who does everything. But mainly writing and acting, I think, would be my true passion in my own production. Like I always loved doing comedy. I've always wanted to make fun of things, make fun of problems and everything. So, I always want to end up in a sitcom. Now, as acting, this would be the true terminology.
Funny guy.
Yeah. But basically, you want to do the same stuff that I'm doing now.
Yeah, yes. By getting paid to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I just want to get paid to tell my own weird story and then act it out on TV.
Yeah. It's really hard to sort of like actually sort of get into a place where you can actually sort of do that and make money doing it, which is why it's so like...
That's it. You just got to keep doing that and keep, getting yourself out there, which is a tough challenge. Yeah. But it's good because these days, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have access to digital SLR cameras and YouTube where you can just distribute your own thing. So I think we're in a golden era, really. There's a lot more people doing it, but we're in a golden era.
Yeah. So where do you want to end up in
10 years' time? In 10 years' time, I want to be a television journalist or a TV presenter, doing even maybe talk shows, so maybe being a host like you. Yeah,
That's what
and
we just want to be like you.
yeah, basically we want to be you.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
I wouldn't say that. It's just sort of one of those things that like. Well,
Just naturally slid in place.
Well, sort of. It's sort of one of those things where like you have to sort of jump into every opportunity you get, I suppose, to
Yeah.
To build yourself up and connections.
Yeah. Well, because I'm sort of I've hosted last episode and this episode, but I'm sort of not necessarily like the host. It's more sort of just like both last week and this week. I've sort of just been the person like the presenter / guest who's been on the most times, so it's sort of naturally fallen.
Hey, that's a record. You're breaking records right now, man.
Yeah. It's working for me. I'm learning a whole lot of new skills just by doing this. So it's
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, I'm guessing that in say in a couple of weeks' time when I'm not going to be here, then you'll be the next most experienced person and you'll be hosting.
Yeah.
That's it. You'll be able to follow your dream, the television presenter. What makes you want to be a television presenter? What influences you to?
I've always had a real strong passion for it. I don't know what it is, but since I was 16, I've just been driven to that job.
Oh, cool.
I think also as just to be a TV journalist, it's kind of the fact of sharing people's stories and presenting them to the world in a different light, which I like. So, yeah.
It's a different perspective. So some people might see it like this, but really it's like this. So you get to expose that true...
Yes, and kind of get people's stories that they want to share, but kind of afraid. So kind of take over their role sharing it, which I really...
Okay,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So what kind of what types of stories like what would be sort of an example of that?
I think Current Affair is a really, really good example.
Okay.
They kind of do stories that are undercover that people don't really speak about.
Yeah.
It's kind of stories that kind of change the world, if you could say it like that. But people are afraid to speak up about. So focus on stories like that.
Yeah.
Or I suppose with current affair shows, like I don't know, like I haven't actually watched a current affair myself, but like a lot of shows within that genre, they sort of tend to focus on sort of enraging the audience a little bit rather than sort of on I wouldn't necessarily say journalistic integrity, but like they'll sort of shape a certain narrative around things that's like sort of designed to, just generally to sort of enrage audiences, like and like I'm sort of wondering like if that's sort of the place you want to end up in, or if you want to take a different spin.
At this point, I haven't really decided the final direction I want to be in, but Current Affair is kind of like an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like how they travel and share different things that are happening around the world and stories that have happened around the world but kind of affected the Australian audience to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I think you always did some summarise, go around the world in 5 days.
Yeah.
So you end up in Dubai one day, London the next day.
Yeah.
And that was actually an interesting week. They go all around the world in 5 days. So
Yeah, I want to kind of share stories like that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
that's
cool.
Good. That's good. Something a bit different. What about you? What influences you to do writing comedy like The Ascenders and?
I suppose writing comedy is sort of a sort of one part of the stuff I want to do. I want to be a content creator generally, and comedy is sort of one side of that. But I'm also sort of keen to sort of like switch genres between projects.
Oh, yeah. That's good. So you like do a bit of something a bit different, like a horror or something like that.
Not necessarily a horror. I've never really been a fan of horror movies generally. But say swapping from like once The Ascenders is done, whenever that is, maybe we'll do 1 season, maybe 2 or 3, don't know yet. Once that's done, I'll probably switch to trying to write a novel or something.
Oh yeah. So you can move away from TV a bit and That's good. That's
Yeah.
a bit of venture away, do a few different.
Yeah. Venture into like maybe do an action fantasy project, or or maybe do another TV project that's just sort of a straight up drama.
You might create the next James Bond, the Australian James Bond. I don't know, an outback detective or something.
An outback detective. That would be interesting and would require a lot of research.
I either got to do either an outback detective or a bogan detective. Either way, you're going to end up in a bar with a few drunken people around going, "Hey, what's going on, mate? I can solve your crime."
Now that would be a really interesting sitcom.
Would you consider like expressing your idea again through RMITV? So something you definitely go back to, or?
I would. Yeah, I would definitely. I would definitely consider doing like sort of leading more projects through RMITV. It sort of depends on what that project is, because obviously, some projects you can do on some projects you can do on a budget, and some you just plain can't. But yeah, I think it's sort of a case of sort of having sort of a few different projects sort of germinating on the back burner, and sort of being ready to sort of take one and run with it, depending on what opportunities arise.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Good plan. Yeah.
So you said you were interested in sort of writing, directing, and acting.
I like doing a bit of everything. I originally wanted to act. I wanted to. I worked in a crappy factory when I was 18, and there was so much drama, so much crap. I could write a sitcom on it. Like, you got the supervisors are like the guy all the girls want to sleep with. So all the girls leave their boyfriends and go with the supervisors, which I find is a load of crap. Then you've got, the forklift drivers always having conflict, trying to keep the place running when it's, eternal dump, trying to keep the place clean when inspectors come through. Yep. And I always thought, I could write a sitcom about this.
There are plenty of there's plenty of precedent for just having sort of sitcoms about the setting of various different workplaces. Because you've got The Office, you've got Parks and Rec.
That's it. I mean, even in Australia, you got Swift and Shift, which was a very interesting sitcom.
The Librarians.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I never saw The Librarians, but that's sort of like most of them are sort of based on sort of different family dynamics or different work dynamics.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that that's a bad thing, because honestly, it's just sort of something that works. Those settings are familiar to people, and there's a lot of different types of characters that you'll find in them with very different goals.
Yeah. So when I got started in film production, I knew nothing. So me and my friend just got together, wrote a script. Yep. And then as I learned film production, so I started volunteering at my church and learned what cameras to use, lighting, and through that I just became a bit of an all-rounder. So I wrote the projects. My friend would direct, I'd produce. Then because we can't find the actors, and I'm acting in it, and then I'm also editing it, and I guess it's just a rhythm I've had for the last few years. My latest project I did earlier this year, Film 101, was the first project I did. Well, I didn't edit. I basically got to finally hand the editing to someone else. Someone did the heavy lifting with the producing, so I was able to just write and then act and do the tiniest bit of production and fund a few things. But other than that, it was very minimal, which was excellent.
That's actually pretty much exactly like what The Ascenders has been for me. Because I'm used to because The Ascenders is actually sort of inspired by a series of projects that some friends and I put together where we were sort of doing all the producing and like large portions of the writing, and then sort of jumping in front of the camera pretty much every time because there was only a certain amount of people who were available on the day. Yeah. And so even if we'd write something for like specifically to not have ourselves in front of the camera, we'd end up there anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Would you say that you would prefer that to like kind of do like a little bit of everything other than have a big wide crew and just have like a specific job that you only focus on?
I think there's a lot to be said for both approaches, in the sense that being able to specialize in one role, you can really sort of actually just sort of focus on that one thing and make sure you're doing it well. Whereas sort of doing a little bit of everything, you can sort of make sure that it's a lot easier to make everything coordinate. Because as soon as everybody's specializing, sometimes you'll sort of get into over-specialization problems where people aren't actually communicating properly between departments, and then communication becomes a whole nother job in itself.
Very true.
Interesting. I think with my perspective, is I've enjoyed being able to do it all-rounder, so being able to do a bit of everything has taught me each and every role, because otherwise I wouldn't know how to produce a show. I wouldn't know, the specifics of writing. I might be just an idiot in front of a camera who knows nothing about it, but I get the opportunity to be able to be a producer. You learn how to produced things. I've directed a few things, and I'll be probably directing my next project, The Bogan Bachelor, during the summer break. And it's good because I'm not going to act in this one. I'm going to stand back and direct, see what I can do with directing, and see if it's something I can do.
Yeah, well, directing is a whole different ballgame, but it helps a lot to be able to actually sort of at least know the basics of every other role, so that you know roughly what the communication problems are going to be and how everyone's going to do their jobs, sort of thing. Yeah. Oh, I'm sort of thinking like how some of this stuff would apply to journalism.
Well, it's really good to know behind the camera before you get in front of the camera. That's what it's been a very big learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And I think also it helps with performance in front of the camera. So if you know how the camera works, kind of the movement to expect, even simple things as getting lit up on set, you kind of know how you have to work with the people behind camera to achieve that. And when they're doing a white balance, you're not just sitting there going, what are they doing? Like, you understand what it's for. And I think it's better to have more knowledge within the industry that you're going to work in than less.
Yeah. Well, like always.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of generally applicable, like across different industries as well. Like, for example, when I was my 9 years in retail, which was all kinds of fun. I sort of found sort of having like a little bit of knowledge of all the other departments sort of helps to like sort of organize the flow of everything else as well. Like even in that setting. Likewise, with things like editing, I think like in terms of sort of like understanding sort of what like how things operate on set, you're gonna sort of have a much better understanding of sort of how like why things are being shot the way they are, and like sort of how to splice that together, and vice versa. Yeah. Understanding editing helps a lot on set.
Yeah, even like being on camera, if you like mess up a bit, you know to keep rolling. You know, like you just don't like freak out, and then because that makes it worse for them in editing. So you kind of. Oh my God, I've messed up!
Stop the cameras! I'm having a nervous breakdown.
Have you ever seen anyone do that?
No, I haven't yet, but it'll be interesting to see him do it. I can act it, but I haven't actually seen someone do that just yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Neither have I, and hopefully that doesn't ever happen. Although, I'm not sure if. I don't know, maybe there's a way to handle that if it does.
So you guys have never experienced like maybe talents like just messing up a bit? So
people make mistakes all the time.
Oh, you deal with people doing mistakes. It's hard to deal with the smart. I've only ever had to do it once, but a smart mouth on set.
Oh yeah.
Like someone who I won't quote anyone or anything, but one of the sets I've done. Basically, just a girl came in. It wasn't even directly at me. It was more directly at the other production, but it made everyone feel uncomfortable. Like, I could laugh it off, and I basically joked back with her. But then with others, she attacked others more often than others. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit hard. Like, if she knows someone's reacting, she'll bite and keep attacking. So it's trying to go, okay, well, how do you keep
one of those?
So sort of like cast wrangling
sort
of thing.
And more, towards other casts. Like, she thought she was the top dog. And everyone else was a peasant. So that's the way
Oh, boy.
I've generally dealt with a very good cast and a very good crew. So when I did it 3 years in Adelaide, I always usually had the same camera guy and the same sound guy. So that always made no crew issues hard. And whenever they got actors in, they were so grateful for the opportunity, or they were friends of mine, that you just had fun. And that's why I love doing comedy, because you have fun in between sets.
Well, you can sort of like have that sort of creative back and forth a little bit.
Like I think the hardest thing, especially when you're doing like dramatic work, is the mood's down because the actors are down, and it's hard to keep. Like I always like to keep people happy. Like I like to be able to tell a few dumb jokes and make people happy, and it's easy to do it on comedy sets because you're already trying to make people laugh. But then once you move to a dramatic sort of one, it's like.
It's like you sort of need to keep that tension going.
Yeah,
almost.
And it's like, so basically, it's just a strange.
Yeah, dramatic is a big change. Like I just recently finished shooting my end of year film for my submission for my course, and I had a dramatic suicidal scene.
Ooh,
So it was very like for the actor to get into the character, we all had to be very somber and very So kind of agree with that. Yeah, kind of changes the mood of the
One
crew.
of our friends, I helped out one of her sets with a dramatic scene. And for her to really start breaking down and crying, like she had to break down and cry. So she'd hide in the corner and she'd have to get herself emotionally ready to cry. So she'd listen to a certain type of music which would remind her of the emotions that would lead her to cry. That's basically what she did. She listened to the music, and then once she was action bang on cue, she was able to cry.
That's actually something that I basically have recently learnt on set, because my actor, for her to cry, she kind of had to get herself into that emotional state. We used to say bad things to her for her to like get into character and start crying.
I would not be able to do that. Like I understand, it's for set purposes, but I would not be able to deliberately break someone down.
Yeah.
Even if I really wanted to.
So sort of getting that method acting thing happening where you're, specifically,
You're horrible. You can't do it. You suck.
Another amazing technique that I saw from an actor probably about 2 days ago was she put toothpaste underneath her eyes. And
I've heard of that.
yeah, and it was incredible because she did an amazing performance.
I also heard, like, toothpaste. You use toothpaste to clear out, your headlights. If it's very brown, you can use it to clear off your table.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So do you find that like sort of having a bit more knowledge of like sort of acting technique and sort of having a little bit of experience with acting yourselves, because you've acted before as well, haven't you?
Nothing big, just like in student productions. So yeah.
But do you find that sort of having that experience sort of helps a lot with directing as well?
Oh, it does. It does.
Definitely. It would. It'd be interesting this summer because me, I usually do comedy, so usually it's just me acting like a jackass. It's basically, it's like line action. Okay, I'm gonna be an idiot on camera. Hello everyone, I'm your local idiot. Thank you very much. Good night.
Cool. Because I've worked with a few directors in the past that like some of them will like, and it's a legitimate way to operate to like sort of let the actors do their thing. But sometimes, like, I've sort of seen it come from a place of sort of not really understanding sort of what actors do or how they or how they function, and it's sort of like, okay, like we'll want the actors to do certain things, and this isn't necessarily just for the Ascenders. This is for a whole lot of other projects that I've done before that. But where, like the director might say something like, oh, just sort of can you be a bit sadder or that sort of thing. And that isn't really helpful for an actor, I don't think, because it doesn't really sort of help them get in that. It actually sort of takes them out of that zone a little bit.
So it gets them more worried instead of getting the right emotion to do the right things. What would you do? Like, what would you generally be more sad? Would you have to be cruel to them?
I think if you've been in their position and you understand, you can kind of twerk the terminology that you use to approach them, which can be beneficial.
Well, sometimes it's just a matter of sort of finding the right angle, in a sense of like rather than saying something like "be sadder," you sort of find a thing of like, oh, okay, like what's actually happening to the character, and maybe sort of describe that to the actor a little bit so that they can sort of work that into.
So basically, like, the director needs to read his cast. So basically, he's able to go, okay, how do I get this person sadder? Well, I know that telling them to be sad is not going to work, but maybe if I abuse them, I wouldn't.
Well, if they're a method actor and they're comfortable and they're comfortable with that, then obviously, like, you'd kind of need to have that discussion with them first.
Yeah. Okay, you're a method actor. Are you okay with me abusing you to get you to the right sadness?
Yeah.
But then what would happen if you overdid it and you made them get sad for like a whole day?
I think as a director, you learn to communicate with a wide range of people.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's very important to learn your actors on set and them as a person, because that kind of helps the way that you like approach them. So for me, talking to my actors and learning how they work in the industry helped me direct them and work with them.
Okay,
so,
that's good. That's good advice for me, when I do directing this summer, because I'm looking at how to really direct. It's basically learning about your people and how to work with them. So how they
basically
work. And basically once you know how they work, then you can work with them. So
yes. Because another thing I've learned is like a lot of actors come from different acting schools that have different experiences and approaches. And I think if you can kind of work with what they've been taught, you'll get a better performance, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
So don't actually try and understand them. Understand the school they've come from.
Their background, basically, which makes up them.
Yeah. So basically, the schools they've been to, or how they've learned to act, And if some of them are method actors, then you're able to just work with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I honestly, I know about method acting, but what other styles of acting are there? Like that's... Because see me, I'm a comedian, so basically I just go with,
Yeah. I wouldn't actually be able to name any other specific styles of acting.
see, me neither.
I know that there are other schools of thought. The one that I normally draw from, the thing that I normally draw from personally. I can't remember the name of the book that it came from. I'll have to post it up on the. I'll have to
do some research.
I'll have to do some research and post it up on the page after the show. But there was this one, possibly the most valuable piece of advice I've had, both as an actor and as a writer. Actually, was that the number one thing that you need to do is sort of engage your sense of play, as in you're sort of turning the character into a little bit of a sandbox. Or the situation into a little bit of a sandbox, and you've got sort of a little bit of an objective as the character. So you're not necessarily trying to sort of play a certain emotion or a certain reaction or any of that sort of stuff. You're just sort of like you're in the scene as a person who wants this particular thing.
And you know whether they get it or not, and then the emotions that come from that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Interesting that you say that, because recently I heard on set a director say to an actor, just be yourself. And the actor turned around and said, well, it's easier to be someone else, but it's harder to be myself. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I found that very interesting because, so what I learned from that is obviously the actors want to know the background of every character, and they want to know the character that they're playing and how that character would react, not how they would react, because that changes.
I've come from stand-up, so I've done a few stand-up gigs and everything before, and that's more about honing in on yourself. And whenever I write a character for myself for any of my productions, I look at this part of my personality, so I'll hone in on that and use that when I act it out on stage. So whether it's a silly side of me, a serious side of me, an emotion I went through one time, I basically look at previous emotions and use that tap into that to be able to get my performance right and write the script right.
So
I do it all from knowing myself. That's how I.
What that actually sort of leads me to is sort of the fact that in my experience of acting at the very least, it's never sort of a matter of trying to become a different person. It's more a matter of sort of taking the little bits of yourself that you don't necessarily use in day-to-day life and sort of letting them override the things that you usually bring to the fore.
So if I want to be angry, I look at all the angry emotions I've had in high school, the things that I've put away in my today person, I bring it back to be able to get that right emotion, the right drive. That's interesting.
So in the sense that if you have sort of a really strong opinion about something, and then the character you're playing sort of has the opposite opinion, and you need to sort of actually engage that and draw from it, probably the way that I go about doing that is by sort of thinking, okay, well, what would lead me to have that opinion? What would lead me personally to have that opinion, rather than how do I just be someone else who has that opinion?
So be more open-minded.
Yeah. Not necessarily being more open-minded, just more sort of sort of reaching back into causality a little bit, I suppose. Into sort of why you think the things you do and why someone else might think differently. I guess that does sort of imply more open-mindedness, but I suppose open-mindedness isn't really the place it comes from.
I think the hardest thing about acting would probably be emotions.
Yeah.
Because you have your own internal emotions, and just if you're very passionate about something and then to kind of move away from that, and
I think that's where you need to be really good with your director. Your director needs to be very good and going, you need to be emotional at this point.
Yeah.
And because your director knows what he wants in the project. He knows where he wants the emotion right here, right this time, not earlier, not later. So I think that's when the director comes into it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the director takes over, because we know how to do it as ourselves, but then we're trying to be someone else and trying to get they're trying to get this image across of this person, so the director can go in and go, okay, you've done well, you know where you want to go, but we need this character to go over here and react earlier.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I think that's more.
Yeah. Have you found have you ever sort of found yourselves in situations where, as an actor, you're sort of trying to draw on emotions that you don't know how to feel?
Yeah, that happened to me recently. As my role was to be this girl that was absolutely obsessed with this guy, And for me, it felt really, really weird because like I had just met this person, and I was just like, well, to feel those emotions was like, it was very hard. I was just like, yeah.
Because you wouldn't obsess over someone normally in your real life, is that
Yeah,
what?
basically, honestly, I'm not an obsessive, clingy person. So to kind of try and be that girl, I was just like, oh my God, this is not me. I'm struggling here because like, I know the actor was telling me, he's like, you need to show more emotion in your eyes. Like, you don't look like you're really into me. And I was just like...
The crazy eyes.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, I don't know if I can master this. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah, just sort of having that thing of, like, you don't quite know what to draw from to make that work, yeah.
And then just, like, looking into someone's eyes that I had probably only known for 5 minutes, I was like, this is getting really awkward for me. Like, yeah, so I think, yeah. It can be hard sometimes.
I talk about, interesting stuff about production. I mean, we've all been all sides of production, behind the camera and in front. I mean, what are some interesting stories that you guys have had, like weird situations? Like I can draw from a weird thing I had to do once. I once had to be a doctor, and I had to dance with this woman who was obsessed with me in a dream, but the woman was a guy. So I'm there dressing and nearly kissing a guy in a dress. And I'm saying his innuendos, I want to dip my chip into you. And it was just like, oh my God.
That is a really, that innuendo is just, that's awful.
Well, I had a similar experience because like I had like a sexual comment that was going to be said to me, and I found out 2 minutes before I had to go on set what it was. So for me to try and not get myself to laugh was probably the hardest thing. Like, I did end up laughing. And, yeah, it was hard.
Luckily, he's behind the camera. It's not on stage. So at least you got take two. At least he's not in front of stage. And, he's like, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, no, I forgot my line. Oh, no, it's not on camera. It's on stage. Oh, crap, I've messed up. No, I'm going home.
No, the situation that I had... I actually had a really embarrassing situation over the weekend on one of my shoots. Because the situation for the scene is like a sort of a split scene where the character that I'm playing finds this other character who's like, sort of passed out and sort of, almost like sort of possibly choking on her own vomit, sort of thing.
Okay.
And of course, the character that I'm playing has no idea how to handle this situation. But of course, like the first thing he does is think, okay, dying person choking CPR, and there's another scene directly after that which is sort of a lot more conversational, but sort of in the same place, like a lot of the same shots. But I sort of got a little bit confused and didn't know which scene we were doing. So we were supposed to be doing scene 14, which was just sort of like us sort of sitting there meeting for the first time, all that sort of stuff. And the director sort of hadn't refreshed his memory on the scene before that, so I came in sort of improving this sort of CPR stuff. The other actor knew what we were doing, like because we'd talked about it. Yeah. But the director was just sitting there going, "What the hell is going on? What is this? This isn't the scene." And then within that, I'm sort of like, I tend to be really uncomfortable with touching people.
It's okay. It's okay.
So, like, trying to get into a character in a situation where, like, where that's part of the scene, it's like I can do it, but it's sort of a bit like, oh, I feel awkward about this. And so, I felt awkward about the scene in the first place because it was the first time we'd actually run it.
Did you have to go mouth to mouth with that, or was it?
No.
Luckily, they said that. So I'm okay with the touching and all that, but the mouth to mouth is like.
Yeah. But so I was getting into this sort of feeling awkward as it was, and then when the director said cut and sort of said what was that, I was just like, okay, that's the most embarrassing thing in the world.
I'll tell you one interesting story I had behind the camera. So I'm doing episode 2 of JD Issues. My actress pulled out in the very last minute, so I'm screwed. No. So I called the director and said, we're screwed, we haven't got an actress. He's like, okay, you try and call a few people, I'll try and get you the set. He was still at home, so basically he came to me, I met him at the train station, he goes, there was one time I'd go drag, pulls out this dress, and he went drag for the scene. Like, that was
nice.
Because with film production, as a producer, you're always solving problems. So you basically become a master problem solution. So,
it's so true.
Without him going drag, the show was screwed. Like, it was, and basically, we because he was dating a sergeant, so basically we had the sergeant go, "You're not like all the other girls. You're not as girly." Well, thank you very much, Sergeant. So we weren't discussing the fact that he was a guy because you look like a man.
So it ends up sort of making making the scene a little bit.
Yeah, a bit more crazy and comical. And also another one was we're supposed to have a rabbit because this is a dating scene where he's trying to do magic tricks. So basically, have you ever seen a rabbit come out of the hat and we're supposed to pull out a rabbit? Well, the girl who had the rabbit pulled out on me. So basically, in the end, my auntie just got this little puppy. So basically, have you ever seen a rabbit out of a hat? He pulled out this dog. Like, wow, I've never seen a rabbit before. So luckily, we played on the fact that the girl was dumb.
Wow.
Sometimes it works out better than what you think.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you change things and improvise things, it actually looks better than planned.
Yeah. So it's
the first film that I ever did, like sort of working in any sort of crew role, which was sort of the precursor to the sketch comedy stuff that led to The Ascenders, but was like it was just an amateur film, like with a few friends from uni, and I met one of my best friends, Alex, through that, and the situation we were in on the first day was we'd had 2 actors pull out on the day, like after having shown up. We had another actor sort of say the day before, sorry, I'm not able to commit to this. So we were recasting 3 characters on the day we were supposed to be starting shooting.
yeah.
And that was sort of like the point where I sort of got really invested because it's like, okay, let's jump in and solve these problems. What ended up happening was we ended up merging 2 characters into one, gender swapping another, which ended up making a much better character because it was a more interesting. The character was a lot more interesting as a woman than as a dude.
Yeah.
So like for about the first week, we were still sort of recasting those roles and just sort of shooting what we could as we were going. I'm still amazed that we managed to finish that movie.
Wow.
That was stammer. There was a project called Isidore, which was like a sort of slasher horror, kind of a half parody where pretty much everybody died food-related deaths.
I love that.
Yeah, well, that's like, I had a really fun experience too, which was actually this week. I was camera for a friend's end-of-year film, and all her extras pulled out, and she had a classroom scene. So you can't have a classroom with no people in the classroom but the main actor. So that was a bit of a dilemma we had. So I offered to just go around in the public area and ask whoever wanted to be extras. But it turned out that because we shot at RMIT and to uni, that everyone was either attending class or studying. So of course nobody wanted to help out.
We actually did that once for finding an Indian woman because episode 1 we had to find a mum for our Indian character Ahmed, who basically his mother forced him to marry a tree.
Oh wow.
So it's actually an Indian tradition where if they have to be married in order. So if the oldest son doesn't get married but the younger one has to, the older one marries a tree so that the younger one could get married.
Oh.
I didn't believe it was true. My friend kept telling me it is true.
I'm so confused by this.
But anyway, my friend, back to the story anyway, he was trying to find Indian women. We didn't know anyone. So basically what we did was my friend went out to the street and asked random Indian women if they would be on our show. And in the end, we found a young Indian woman. We had to make her look old. And yeah, so it's happened
That's
before.
funny. Well, what we ended up doing is we ended up getting our crews to be extras. So she was the director, ended up taking over camera, and then all us as crew, so first AD and everything, we were the extras in the classroom.
Oh wow!
So we really improvised. We did great.
I find we do that a fair bit for the Ascenders actually. Like if you're on crew, you'll probably end up being on camera at some point if you're regular enough. We've actually got sort of several recurring characters, like sort of because of that, who just sort of show up once or twice every episode. Like it's particularly Will, who's sort of ended up sort of having a named role, who's a little bit of a recurring gag.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's all we have time for. This has been Provisionally Approved. I'm Mike Gorrie.
And I'm Justin Dalaya. Mwah, I love you all.
And I'm Taylah Jayde. See you later.
See you later.
And thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you like what you saw, check the links below.